Welcome back to the channel. I'm standing next to the Torino here and I'm about to do some basic maintenance on it, including changing the fluid for the gear vendors for the first time, which could be interesting, which actually now that I'm saying that, I'm hoping it's completely uneventful, because if it is interesting, that could be a bad sign. But anyway, before I get to that maintenance, I wanted to do a little walkthrough on the installation of the Carb Cheater. I installed the Carb Cheater last fall, and right after I did it, I made a short video just kind of previewing the device. Now, at the time of me recording that video, I assumed that the people that would find that video and watch it were people that were already familiar with Carb Cheater, knew what it was all about. Now, a few months have gone by, and I now know that assumption I had was dead wrong. I received a lot of questions about the installation process. I received a lot of questions about, how the device works. So I'm going to do a walkthrough of how I installed the Carb Cheater into this car, and in the process you'll see all the different components that come in the Carb Cheater kit. Quick disclaimer, I am not affiliated with Carb Cheater. I am just a guy that bought a Carb Cheater and installed it onto his car. But if you want to learn more about it, I will put a link in the description below to their website. Go check it out. At its core, Carb Cheater is a tuning device. It combines basic tuning information, that is engine speed, vacuum reading, air-fuel ratio reading, and overall earth speed, how fast you're going, and displays it into an easy-to-read package. Now at this point, you're probably wondering, how does it get all this information? So, getting into the engine bay now. And at a glance, you really can't tell that anything's been done here. I set up the main control module behind the passenger side shock tower. That's kind of the brains of the operation. That's what'll connect to your, cell phone or tablet. So your air-fuel ratio information is supplied by this O2 sensor that is... The Carb Cheater kit does come with a weld-on bung, or you can use the clamp-on style bung. Obviously for aesthetics, the weld-on bung is preferable, but if you don't have access to a welder, the clamp-on style works great. Now, going behind the air cleaner here, that is a map sensor and an IAC that is plumbed in to the carb spacer, which it's a special carb spacer that comes in the Carb Cheater kit, and it has a port on the front and a port on the rear, and you connect both those to here. The map sensor reads your manifold vacuum, and then the IAC is what controls airflow when you turn on the auto tune feature. Now for the tachometer function, it just hooks up to the coil, just like a standard tach. Alright, and just note, auto tune is off. We will get to the auto tune, but kind of wanted to just cover in depth the more just the basic tuning features of the Carb Cheater first before we dive into, oh well, that's convenient. Okay, hopefully that doesn't fall. I had alluded to it earlier in this video, but just for the sake of clarity, you will need an Android phone to run the Carb Cheater. A cheap Walmart phone works just fine. That's what I'm using here. You don't even need a cell phone plan. Something that initially drew me to the Carb Cheater is that in this car, I don't really run any non-factory gauges, other than the indicator lamp for the Carb Cheater, but I did want the information, so it's kind of nice. I've got it here, and if I don't feel like having that on the windshield, I can just, pull it off of there and throw it in the trunk or whatever. Even on this phone, which was again pretty cheap phone, The readout is very clear, very easy to read, and you know, you get all the basic tuning information you'd want to have. You have a tachometer, you have a vacuum gauge, you've got your AFR gauge, and you even have a speedometer, which, hey, on a lot of these old cars, you know, the speedometers either don't work or they're wildly inaccurate, so having that speedometer also kind of nice. Well, looky here. That's a 68 or 69 Torino. And man, she looks like she could use some saving. Huh. I didn't expect to see that on this drive. Interesting. Hey buddy, you helping me? Of course he is. Alright, so I'm going to turn the auto tune on. You can kind of hear the idle take off a bit. In gear now. When you turn the auto tune on, that IAC valve that was shown before begins to open, and it adjusts your air fuel ratio to the parameters that you set. Now those parameters include your desired cruising AFR range and the vacuum threshold. That vacuum threshold is basically a safeguard against running your motor too lean in a high load scenario. That number in the right hand corner of the display, the percentage, shows how much the IAC is opening to allow additional air into the motor. I'm going to do a mild acceleration here, and you'll notice that when the manifold vacuum falls below the threshold that I set, that the percentage at which the IAC is opening will fall to 0. Still kind of trips me out seeing a carburetor correct itself like the Carb Cheater is able to do. And I know some, you know, kind of diehard carburetor fans out there probably bristle at that. I mean, I see the comments on videos, you know, just you got to learn how to tune a carb. This is BS. But the fact of the matter is you can be an expert carburetor tuner and you will still encounter situations where your carburetor is out of tune, because a carburetor is just a static metering device. And unless you live in a place where you don't have any weather changes, everything is the same all the time, you're going to encounter you know, temperature changes, barometric changes, maybe elevation changes that disturb the tune of your carb. And that's really what is so great about the auto tune feature, is that you can, the idea is, you get your carburetor, dialed in as best you can, and then let the auto tune kind of do the rest, like fill in where, maybe you're driving it on a warm day or a really humid day. The auto tune can kind of mitigate some of the changes that would normally kind of throw your tune off. I don't see what the downside is with that, but that's just me. I think the Carb Cheater is a great tuning tool, and the auto tune feature on top of it just kind of bridges that gap between a classic analog setup that a carburetor is, to kind of gives you some of the flexibility that you get with fuel injection at a fraction of the cost. Now, there's definitely more functions that the Carb Cheater has that I didn't discuss in this video, but I do think this is a pretty good place to stop. Definitely might do another video possibly regarding the data logging. It's another function, feature that Carb Cheater has that's pretty cool. And I definitely encourage y'all to check out the Carb Cheater website. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank y'all for watching, and I will see you next time.